All right. So we'll get going with this, and then as people come on in, we'll invite them in. And first of all, before we start off, are there any questions at all anybody might have? And I can pull this up, and please feel free to show yourselves. We're all together here on one team, so let's just working together is awesome. Working together is awesome. Especially, I don't know, now, is this how you've been having most of your meetings, is virtually still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One day soon, hopefully we'll be able to do live and in person. All right, let's get started. So my name is Lynn Campanella. I have a company called Playocracy, which is play and democracy put together. And actually, this is my grandson here. This is one of my grandsons here. This was last year in the summer. He was making a scary face. So as you can see, he's quite scary. He's almost 4 now. So, and then I have a 4-month-old grandson as well. So we're really, it's been an added bonus and an added adventure looking at play through their eyes. And I am a play and recess expert. I have worked with school boards across Canada and into the States. And I'm also trained to train in physical literacy. So we've got a good mix of what movement and play and fun look like. Before we get started, I would love if people can drop in the chat one thing that they are grateful for from today. So now my only concern is, Jill, if you wouldn't mind reading them out as they come, because I am in presentation mode, I'm not going to be able to access my chat. But if you could share what some folks are saying, that'd be awesome. Okay. And, sometimes if we can just, even though the day might not unfold the way we always expect it to, sometimes just being grateful for the small things,
Oh, I can hear you all right. Nick said, sorry to interrupt, but is anyone else having audio issues?
Thumbs up from people. Are we okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, okay. I can.
Okay. Maybe.
Someone wrote, building a snow fort with my students, taking advantage of sticky snow and building vocabulary as we did it. Awesome.
Nice.
So, yeah, for the lovely weather, so my kids could go outside and play. Traveling safely today. We had a nice simple snow day, which was needed for my student who has a lot of behavior issues. We have a nice one-on-one or small group. Yes. Enjoyed an outdoor lesson on forces with slides. Very cool.
Nice.
Yes, I can. Oh, I can hear, but not well on my iPad, so I just switched to my laptop. Amber, Chantel said I can't hear anyone talking either. Okay. So your audio is on. Like if you go to the 3 dots, we're at more. Just make sure, like, you could disconnect audio. Make sure that that's not that it is on. Not sure what else.
All right. Okay, super. And I absolutely love, and we're going to share the results of the survey as well in a moment. I love that you folks have snow fort building on your list, because here in Southern Ontario, where I'm in Hamilton area, we're not allowed to even look at snow, touch snow. You just don't, hands off with snow. And in fact, yesterday we did have a little bit of snow on the ground. I was at a school, and first recess announcement came over. Okay, so there's snow on the ground, but you're not allowed to touch it, students, boys and girls. There's no touching the snow. And I'm thinking, we live in Canada, we have snow, and that's all there is to it. So I love that you guys have fort building and slides as well. This is great. Awesome. All right, so there we go. And honestly, I am very low key, keep it real, keep it honest, and be authentic. So if we have some questions as we go through this, and we can certainly stop through, have a peek at them and discuss them or we can go to the end. And but if they're really burning questions that you need to know on something I'm doing, please, I'm very good with that too. So, I like to keep it just an organic flow and keep this very open, because we are learning from each other. So help yourself to any questions.
How is the sound for the people who are issues? Are you able to hear?
Was there any responses?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep going and see how it goes. So I would like to share with you the results of your survey, which only, there we go. Let's just go here and do it. So can you see this? It's an Excel sheet. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So this is the results of the survey of those 4 questions that were put out. And I kind of highlighted some things. So the first question was, what are some positive things you see at recess? I love that so many people said students are playing well together. I thought that was awesome. Collaborating, there's the snow forts again, looking out for each other. Wonderful. So what are some of your barriers? Overwhelmingly, it was, again, many students do not know how to initiate games on their own. And the second one, or actually might even be the first one, I should say, is they are having a challenging time solving conflicts during recess. Very understandable. Third question was, how would you rate recess before COVID? Now, we did have 4 people respond to say, it's a level 4. This went from a 1 to a 5, 1 being, not so good at all, 5 being awesome. Now, what we did see here was that there were people looking at from, on a scale of 2 and 3. So there's actually more who were on the lower side of the scale than the majority of the 4. So, overwhelmingly, recess before COVID was not that great. How would you rate recess now? We only had 1 person put a 4. The rest of them were all 2s and 3s. So midway as the 3-point is, but 2s and 3s, again, not on the great scale. So why I'm bringing this up is, get rid of that. We'll go back here. This is not just you folks. Honestly, I am working with a couple of school districts in California, out in Edmonton, in Hamilton. I'm working very closely with a couple of them that we're doing some pilot projects in, and they all have the same response. So this is not just where you are. We are finding that we're going to look at this and we're going to bring this in as the what, so what, and now what theory. And we know that the what is recess brings us challenges. This is what has been noticed pre-COVID, post-COVID. Well, we're not post-COVID yet, but hopefully we're getting there. So looking at the so what, how can we make sense of what we're seeing, what we're noticing? So what, number 1, this generation of children will and does play differently than we did. I'm from the streetlight generation. We went out and we didn't come home unless we were hungry. We were told to come home by our friends because we weren't playing right, or the streetlights came on. So how can we meet the needs of this generation of children who are playing? So what, number 2, kindergarten and primary children are finding it extremely difficult to know what and how to play. They have missed this. This last year and a half of school has been very sedentary and solitary, isolated in front of a computer. And you know yourself, if when dealing with, especially with the kindergarten and grade 1s and 2s, they can't focus that long on the computer. So they've also missed all that learning at recess on what would happen organically and naturally. So at number 3, we saw from the numbers that you shared, we don't necessarily want to go back to a 2 or a 3 recess. We want to have recess 2.0. So we're going to reboot this and see what we can come up with. So then now what? So how are we going to take what we know and create a course of action to move forward with? So now what, number 1? We want to build a recess with intention and purpose. We want to make sure that just doesn't happen, and wishes and dreams aren't going to make recess what we want it to be. We've got to put some background and some intention and purpose into it. Now what, number 2? Come January, what I will be starting probably mid-January, maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday after school, is we're going to have a professional learning community on recess. So this will be 1 hour once a month. You're very welcome to join. And all we're going to do is talk recess strategies, what worked, what didn't. I've got this problem. What do I do? Has anyone else seen this? So by building a community, you know what? We'll find answers through our peers. And now what, number 3? So we've created recess architects. We are looking at building new strategies for recess. And here are the 3 toolboxes that we've created. So today we're going to be looking at developing that recess team, looking at a recess action plan. And I don't believe I sent it, but it's going to be coming to Jill, a quality recess checklist. So this actually is also a quality recess and physical literacy checklist that takes you from the first part of your school day and how they get there to how they leave and everything in between. So you can start using that right away. In our other toolboxes, you know, we're looking at the Lead Recess program. That's our peer leadership program that we've developed. We've been using it for about 14, 15 years. We have a Train the Trainer module with that too. And then we have active supervision guidelines, engage active supervision too. And then of course we've created our own line of stencils. So let's just pop right into this. And we're going to look at right now creating our recess team and what that entails. Now I did send those files to Jill. So Jill, was everybody able to? Sorry, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I did send them out yesterday. Hopefully everyone was able to open them.
Awesome. Awesome. You know what? And all we're going to do right now, I'm going to pop over to that file. We're going to look at them together. And this is where, there we go. Can you see the new screen? I've got the, or do I have to share again? Perfect. Okay. We're going to go through this portion of it. And what I want to do is we'll spend a little bit of time on this, and then we're going to go into the recess action plan. So building your team is creating and gathering the people that you know who are going to help you, who are like-minded and going to build your team along with you. And going to be, and again, any of this is not supposed to be done in one small chunk of time. If it takes this whole school year for you to do it, then that's what it is. And we're going to look at some strategies and how we can look at time management as well. So our role in this too is we want to support the play piece in this, the recess piece in this, and keeping in mind that play development looks at the social, emotional, physical, and cognitive. And that's what we're looking at, all 4 of those. So we created this foundation. It is a foundation, but it's not hard and fast because every school is unique. So we're going to fit this in, or you're going to fit this in to your own school as it best goes. So you are basically going to be the lead role in the recess team. And again, we want to keep in mind that we're authentic, we are being ourselves, what that looks like. And each team member brings its own unique talents and specialties to this team. So we should be celebrating those. We're going to be organic. We are going to go with the flow. This is not a linear piece because schools move as they need to. And we're going to use our growth mindset to be positive. So what do we need that recess team? Well, recess doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. So we need to make sure that we're bringing in a skill set that's going to enhance that and bring that together. This is actually your second step. Your first step is recognizing that, you want some improvements in your school and what those are going to look like. So we've got check number 1, and now we're getting on to point number 2. Now, do you want me to make this a little bigger? Would that be easier to see? I can make that. There we go. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at building this team, because you've already recognized that there are challenges to recess, and we know that. But this is one of the gifts that COVID has given us. We've been able to stop, and from your information, we don't want to go back to that. We want to build a recess that is enhanced, the 2.0. So we do know that over the last 40 years, things have certainly changed for children. They are play deprived, whether it's through, overscheduling, perceived fears, not real fears, perceived fears, even the fact that they have extra work going on. So we need to figure out how to get them out and playing a little more. And for some of them, recess is the only time they have authentic play. So what opportunities and what options can we give them? So the mounting evidence shows that because children are play deprived, they're lacking in, creativity, problem solving skills, the fine and gross motor development. We can certainly see, especially after COVID, the lack of the social skills or the antisocial behavior that is happening. And of course, sadly, there is much more, and not just in children, but more mental health issues and with depression and anxiety that has been highlighted with COVID. And looking at the resiliency, the self-regulation, and how it happens in stressful situations. So by creating that recess team, you are actually gathering a whole group of superheroes to fight injustice and poor recess protocols. Yay, you guys are going to do this. So this is how we're going to do it, because it's a collective. It can't be put on one person to do. And, even though we might have some superhero fighters who go off to battle on their own, you guys aren't going to do that. You're going to create that team. So you want to look for people who are like-minded. You want to, people who are understanding on what recess looks like, sounds like, and feels like, because you want to make sure that you have people on your team who have the same values, you are sharing similar characteristics, not all the same, because you do need to have different ones coming to the table, but you want to create that harmonious team. So some of the characteristics we might want to identify and what they're going to be looking at. And I know these are people already in your school. So having an understanding that recess is 2 things. 1, it's a break from work, a break from the classroom, and it's a child's choice of play. Now, we're not saying it's run amok sort of play. You are offering choices, and as long as choices are being offered, that's what students get to choose from when they are playing outside. We want to make sure there's people on your team who understand the atmosphere of inclusive play and what, inclusivity and diversity, how they all come together. We might celebrate those differences, right? We want to demonstrate respect and understanding and bringing the importance of play. And, there may be some times where you need to sell the idea of play, especially, when you're understanding with different stakeholders in your school. And, this is where we can certainly come in and help if you like, because we've already got a number of different presentations and a bunch of research collected to show the value of play, because you're going to have people taking on different tasks. You are going to have, negotiation skills you might need to bring out as well. So when we look at all the roles of the people who are here, we're going to be looking at people from, senior admin, administration, from the school staff, members of the staff. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be teachers only. It can vary, you can include EAs. We actually have one school we're working with, and not the custodian, the secretary, the school secretary, she's on the team because she found an interest in it. She wanted to do it. You can have some students on the team, your parents and caregivers, and we're going to talk about a number of different community partners you can also have on your team. So when we work collaboratively, we're sharing the responsibility and the accountability, because if there's no accountability, you know that all the work that you're doing is just going to end up sitting there in a nice, neat pile, and you don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that play during recess directly improves children's ability to meet their educational objectives. Doesn't mean that they need to know that, but what you're offering them gives them a lot of choice. And I think of this as the Flintstone effect. So when we watched Flintstones as a child, we saw it just at face value for what it was. But if you watch the Flintstones as an adult, there's a lot of other things on higher level that are going on there that as a child, you shouldn't understand or shouldn't know. As an adult, you see both levels. So think of this concept as well when you're out there. Play is for play's purpose, and that's what the children should be doing. Yet as an adult, you see the both levels on what's there too. So here is just a spot where you can list, if you want to doodle, if you want to list some characteristics of who and the skills that your team has, and maybe the things that they want to focus on, jot them down here. So looking very, very briefly at the specific roles that who are going to be part of your team. So again, senior admin. These folks are best at finding the resources that you need. And it would be awesome if they could include recess time as part of their visit to the school. I know in some of the boards that I'm working with, some of the districts I'm working with, they don't necessarily have school improvement plans this year, but what you're doing, whether it's creating your team or the recess action plan, the RAP that we're going to be talking about in a minute, all of this can go in your school improvement plan as well. So senior admin is also people who are mindful of the 4 domains of childhood development, as well as the development of the people, of the adults in their school too. So they are going to look at the physical, emotional, and social safety of everyone. And make sure you ask them to come for a visit so they can see what recess looks like now before you start getting all these strategies into place. As for the administration, so whether it's your principals, your vice principals, any principal interns who are working with you, they understand the frequent flyers who are typically coming to the office before, after, and during recess on a regular basis. So this is someone who's going to look at what your engaged active supervision looks like. And again, we've created a whole manual on what we call this one easy. So it's engaged active supervision for the yard. And we look at different areas there. But the attitude and the attitude of the principals, the vice principals, that influences how some people do and feel about recess. So we want to make sure that, they're working alongside the staff champions, which are you folks, to help you effectively train in recess pedagogy, as well as supporting the new recess culture you're trying to build. So when we look at safety, and again, the school administration understands and is responsible for the overall safety of the staff, students, parents, and visitors of the school. So again, keeping in mind that safety doesn't just mean the physical, but also the emotional and the social too. So when we look at the staff, boots on the ground, you folks are out there. Now, just for my information too, is the staff the folks that do the supervision for recess, or do you have someone else come in to do that for you?
Yeah, it's the staff.
Okay, okay. Because again, different areas, different procedures that happen.
Yeah.
And in terms of the staff, I guess again, it differs per school on what goes on and how that looks. So it's not a problem. So we can talk about that. But again, if there's any questions as we're moving through this, or any points you want to bring up, whether they're questions or not, or comments, please either add them in the chat or ask away. So we want to make sure that for your own sanity, that when we create our recess action plan or our RAP, everybody understands that the rules are the same for everybody, and that the recess experience is a quality recess experience, or a quality recess culture is the responsibility of all staff in the school, not just you folks who are looking to head this up. Also in this, because it's a live document, a fillable document, you can easily make notes here and add this as part. So this could even be ideas that you're jotting down on how you see each of the different roles adding into the mix. Now with the students or student leaders, we also, whether you have peer student leader programs at your school, does your district have one that you typically use, or does everybody just have their own thing?
Each school has their own staff, either the EAs or teachers. Sometimes principals go out, but yeah, a schedule. It depends on, but they don't hire in other people for supervision.
Okay, so what about do you have a student leadership program?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I wasn't sure if some schools followed something, and they very well might, follow something that they do. And actually, I think there's a new one in the chat. I'm just afraid to open it because it's going to end up being a black screen for you folks and block things out for me. Was there?
Gabrielle said, yeah, teachers, EAs, and monitors supervise recess.
Okay, awesome. Because there's the ones I work with in California, they actually have what they call recess proctors. And those folks, that's what their job is, to monitor and work with lunches and recesses. So again, learning how different people work. With the recess leaders, or even the students, their primary responsibility is just to play at recess, and if you have student leaders, and this is something, if you're interested, we can work towards at a later date. These folks are the ones that bring in and role model the positive social skills, life skills, and games for the younger students to play. Parents and caregivers are important to be a part of the team, because they're in the school. And sadly, I've not heard any principal ever tell me that someone called to say they had an awesome recess, their child had an awesome recess. Usually they're calling because there's a problem at recess. And the one thing, whether it's out in a newsletter or through your parent council, it is so much nicer that if someone does have a situation that they're bringing to the principal, offer a solution, offer an idea on, at least that's a starting point. It might not be plausible, but it's a starting point on how people can get through it. So this is where your parents having, whether the parent is on the parent council or not, having them as part of your team as well. And, again, listing how your parent or caregiver can be involved and what you would like to see from them. Now, your community partners, there are so many to choose from, and you folks may have different ones too to add to the list, which I think would be awesome. So for example, someone from public health, A police liaison officer would be a super person to come in. If you have a religious group near you, near your school, and you'd like to partner up with them, again, a different outlook and different experiences. There are other like-minded companies. So we also, we're community partners with a number of different schools that we work with too. In terms of the commitment required, honestly, there's not a lot. There is going to be a little bit of the upfront work, but as I said, this is not to be done all within the next 2 days. If this takes the rest of the school year, then that's what it does. It takes the rest of the school year. We know we are all on overload with so many things between home and work. So pace yourself and do what you can as your team, and make sure that you delegate too, to make sure everyone plays a role and is part of it. So you want to make sure that you're filling out and you're documenting things as well. And that's where we're going to look at this. So here in this document here, again, it's a fillable document. Think of this, you can barely see it here on this picture, but I know you can see it on yours. Think of the wagon wheel and how we have the center core, and each of these spokes is someone who's on your team. If one is missing or one is cracked, and the whole wheel can't move. So we really are a team, and everyone has their special talent that we bring to the table to use. So you can easily fill this out. You get to choice of, who you're looking at bringing on to here, put the person's name and let them sign it. And again, this is a workable document for sure. And same with this, again, just so it's again a visual, if this is something that you want to share with the rest of the school. So just tap or click the person's name on who's going in here. And then at the bottom, just so, again, it's a good visual for everyone to understand and see what's going on. There's administration staff, and all you have to do is just drag them over, and they get put in there. So you just have to drag it over. I'm in different screen here, so I won't be able to do that. When we look at accountability and assigning the tasks, we're going to look at, heading up specific ideas. And I've just shared this accountability process. I know you understand this, but again, because we deal with so many different groups, putting everybody on the same playing field so everyone has an understanding, I've just created this here. So break it down in whatever you're doing, break it down in manageable pieces. Nothing is more frustrating than feeling overwhelmed. So again, monitor yourself and observe how you're handling your workload. And if you feel it's too much, take it back to the team. Maybe, we need to reorganize the time we've given ourselves or the task itself. And there's nothing wrong too if you want to break it up into maybe what we're going to handle this year and then put on the plate for next year. But again, by documenting this, you are going to be able to keep everything a little more organized too. So what we also want to look at is, gathering the information, number one, make sure that we have it all, discussing some options, reflecting on why we are changing something or keeping the process that we have. And then again, sometimes it might come to negotiation tactics if not everybody on your team is looking at the same ideas and why. And I think probably it will come down the final say, working with the principal on what that can look like. So all this chart is, and again, these are very easily copied if you need more. It's just writing out what the task is, who is going to be doing this task, and any notes and other things that you need to add to it. And again, I've always liked this saying from St. Teresa: I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot, but together we can do great things. So just a quick tip on how to keep your team strong. So I like acronyms, and as we move on, you'll see I find it easier. So we're going to grip the 4 developmental elements of an effective team. So we're going to have our goal, and when we get onto the recess action plan in a second, you're going to see how we're going to get that one goal chosen. And this is going to whether you post it in your room, on your computer, in the hallway, it doesn't matter. But as long as everybody is united in that one goal, you're golden. Roles and assignments. Make sure, one, that they're all defined and that everybody has something to do. Nothing is more frustrating than someone feeling left out because they haven't been assigned part of the task or working together with someone else to do it. So that is key as well. And make sure, just for clarity's sake, that they are defined and recorded so there's no miscommunication. Interpersonal relationships. This is the glue that creates that trust, collaboration, and connection. And we know this. So we do know that with time and shared goals, we have that connection. And because we're working together towards something. And the process. If we plan something and we follow the procedures that we have into place and the protocols we put into place, then we can show accountability very easily. This is just another one that I really like using. And I share this a lot when we work with our student leaders. 6 most important words. I admit I had made a mistake. The sign of an excellent leader is someone who can admit, I've made a mistake. When they do that, all they have to do is apologize, correct it, and move on. 5 most important words. You did a good job, or you did a great job. 4 most important words. What is your opinion? Not I'm sharing mine. What is your opinion? 3 most important words, if you please. 2 words, thank you. The 1 most important word, we, and the least, I. So we're just going to wrap this up with creating a budget and what that looks like. And again, I'm being very authentic and honest because this is not, you're not the only folks, and a lot of people don't put a budget towards recess because for the past 15 years that I've been focusing on recess, it's got a lot better than what it used to be, and people are now recognizing how critical play is to child development and how much we need it, and how many children do not get it elsewhere, authentic unstructured play. So now we're starting to see more and more people actually having a budget line for recess and what that can look like. And you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot, whether you're looking at, equipment, whether it's for your student leaders who are leading different games. And we've got strategies on how we can get past cohorting and in this COVID time right now, or whether it's classroom bags. You don't need to have a lot of equipment, whether there's some spare things in the physical education budget or the cupboard that we can take from, we can look at that. And it does not have to be a lot of money. For finding some funds on how we can do these, whether we can reallocate funds from, the physical education funds, outdoor education, physical literacy group, mental well-being, or student success, all of those areas, when we look at recess and play, all fit in perfectly. Can your parent council help? I know some can't, and that's depending on where they are, very valid. But this is, again, where you might have to sell a bit or educate a bit on really what recess is. We've spoken to a number of parent councils, and the one common denominator, parents will put up their hand and they'll say, no, my child has a great recess. Everything's fine. I'm not sure why there's a problem. And then I'll ask, is your child in kindergarten or grade 1? The answer is always yes, because of course they have a great recess. They're out running, they're out playing, they're out doing whatever makes them happy. But as they get up, especially from 3 up, recess is not always that great. So, and we've shared some questions as well that parents can ask, what happens at recess? Find out more questions, find out more information. And we've also supplied some links that you might want to look into. I can also send to Jill just recently, literally within the last 3 weeks or so, some really awesome research pieces have come out on recess, and just to support it with some great follow-up things. So I can certainly send those as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is look at our recess action plan. And because I want to be cognizant of your time, and I know that, go back here, and I want to share. I'm not going to share the note part. I'm actually going to share the actual plan and show you how we can fill this out. And then there's a couple other things I want to share in between, but we'll go this way. Are there any questions so far? Any comments people would like to make? I would love to hear anything. Is there some, if I open the chat here, will I lose something? Okay, great. Anything, any questions, comments? We good? Because I don't feel like I want to talk all the time, but I would love to hear if there's anything coming from you folks, if you need anything. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so your recess action plan. Think of this as your recess Bible. This is where everything, and the whole purpose of this is why we created this was because we would be going into schools. And as I said, we've been doing this for a number of years. And someone does it this way. Someone else does it this way. They've got information over here. Oh, but they didn't know that information. Or parents come and, well, no one's told us this. How do we know this? What's going on? So if you put everything into one place, then people understand what's happening. And then this can go on your website. This can be part of your school improvement plan. So you have it all together. Your workbook, the other document that I sent as well, think of that as your communal, your recess team think tank. It's where you jot your notes down. It's where you're going to add your information. And it's also a historical gathering of what your plans are, what they can be, and how you would like to move it forward. So you also want to look at this as an organic document. It's going to move and ebb and flow with the times and changes that come up all of a sudden, because heavens knows we didn't really anticipate having the last year and a half in lockdown or wearing masks or any of this and living in cohorts. So you want to make sure that you also set a time limit for this. And if you need to adjust it, awesome. Then we know that life gets in the way, so it's not a problem. Just do that too. So let's go through this. All right, we have, there we go. Now I can move it. Can you see the new the recess action plan document?
Yes.
Super. Okay, awesome. We have broken this down into, your workbook has been broken down. We give some information, but then we've also put in there some think about it areas and act upon it areas, because we want to make sure that you have a full scope. And what we've put in there is just from our experience over the last number of years working with a variety of different schools. So if there's more, hey, please, that something you think we've missed, I would love to hear from you so we can help other schools as well and share it. Keep in mind, use a growth mindset as well if you can, because by using that growth mindset, you will overcome problems. So this page here, you can easily put, you know, your school logo, whatever picture you want, and go for it that way. We have mentioned about the COVID information. This is part of your history. This is part of our history. So put this in here, start it from here, because if we have to go back to something, you've got it already recorded. You have options here to pick who is on your team, what role they are coming from, the person's name, and get them to sign it. This is kind of like a contract, how they're partnering with you. Why I asked those questions earlier, because you're going to be starting to fill this out. You're going to look at 3 positive things that you see during recess, 3 things that can be improved, your vulnerabilities. Then you're going to, and if there's more than 3, then write them down, because again, this is a fillable document. You're able to move it around. Take one of those vulnerabilities. That will be your goal for the year. And in fact, you know, we've already given some ideas as well, what they might be, but pick one that works for you, that you want to work on. And then in your objective areas here, think of these more as a high level, because when different people take on those different tasks, they will itemize it, they will break them down. And this is what's going to be part of your school culture for the next year. So look at that idea. We want to go into, you're going to assign the different tasks to the different team members. We've given you a chart here as well to do that. We've put in a check-in date and a final date. And again, these are all fillable documents. You can make them as long or as big or as short as you like. Do what you need to do to make it work. Your recess team has made a commitment to you. And don't forget, you have that realm from everywhere from senior admin, if they'd like to be on it, to your school administration, to community partners, and everybody in between, all stakeholders who see and work and touch points with the school somehow. So before committing to a task, have each team member perhaps think, do I have at this time, at this place, the physical and mental capability to be able to see it through? What else is going in my life right now beyond school that might, harbor what I need to do? And I want to commit to helping, but setting boundaries is always a good idea too. We do know that from COVID, we all very easily, got burnt out, and it's been a long time since many of us have even had a real break and have been able to travel. So looking at how we can make sure that this is a healthy environment for everybody will give you longevity. We're going to start with the outdoor recess plan. So by looking at these, we know that sometimes recess appears to be organized chaos. But to you and to trained eyes, they know that there's a flow and there's an ease to it. So you want to look at the transition times. How do the students go out to recess and how do they come back in? Do you have zones for specific grades? Give some details here. These are all clickable parts that you can put those notes in. Do you look at different play patterns? And I'm going to show you a chart in a second. So Dr. Stuart Brown has talked about the 7 patterns of play. One school I'm working with, we asked students what they wanted to do, and we're working with 5 specific schools, very in-depth recess outlooks. You know what? A lot of them, they want to see other things that we can do, not just body and movement play. It's been very interesting gathering this information. Are students allowed to, and we know right now they're not allowed to go to different areas. They're typically in their cohorts. And again, this might be different for your area on how the space that you have provided for them. Restroom breaks, going for drinking water. What do the protocols look like for that? Blacktop versus going on the grass in the field. Does that happen all the time? But this is where you're going to put all of this information down so it's all in one spot. If you need to as well, also in the workbook, we've provided a further from what the 4 questions we asked you, further information to gather from a teacher voice side of things. So there's a whole bunch of different questions you can ask to find out what it looks like from your school's perspective, what your staff would like to see. And even in terms of appropriate equipment, do the primaries, juniors, and intermediates all get to play with the same sort of thing? Is there classroom bags? Is there one bin? How is that equipment stored? Playground markings. Do you folks have anything on the playgrounds at most of the schools?
Not too much that I'm aware of, mainly cones that I've seen to divide the areas.
Okay.
So we have about 10 minutes left, Lynn.
Yep. No, but yep, we're good. We're because this is something I just want to go through it, and then because you have the workbooks as well, so it's all right there. But I'm just going to point out a couple of things. So we also want to look at some playground markings. So that's the painted things on the playground that make it very inviting and very playful. Now, I know right now you don't have any peer leadership programs there, but again, if something comes in, this is where you fill it in as well. your outdoor supervision, what this looks like, and how you're going to bring that engaged active supervision piece. So again, putting your schedule here, and again, it's going to change each year as the staff changes too. Here, this one's important, your protocols for conflict resolution strategies. Making sure that everybody's on the same page. You know, whether you're looking at rock, paper, scissors, something as simple as that, restorative practice. We have one that is our empathy walk. It actually can be painted on the playground or painted inside on the floors. You know, whether it's Counsel circle or something you've created, which your team knows. The one that works best for you is the one that people are going to use and everybody understands. So the wellness strategy you want to bring into this too. What is the school board or district's wellness strategy for everybody? You know, you so add it in there so you're following parts and pieces. What about looking at inclusion, diversity, and divergence? How does that look? And what are you doing there? Knowing the difference between bullying and being unkind. And in the workbook, we've put a chart there giving the difference between, you know, what a conflict is, being rude, being mean, and what bullying actually is. We want to find out about going out, eating before going out, or going out before eating. Which one do you do? And again, in the workbook, there are links to tell you the benefits of going out first and then eating afterwards. Recess is not withheld for any reason. We've given also a list of alternatives, and right here, the ones that work best for your school. We've given a list of the 29 of them. There's a link in the workbook. I don't know why I had 29, not 30. Don't ask me. It seemed, obviously, it was a good idea at the time. But look at that and pick the ones that work for you and list them here. Also looking at recess is digital free. Do you enhance that? Do you take that and why it should be digital free? You know what? This is a time for them to do what they need to do. The children should be getting out there and working. And then how do you support this? Your indoor recess plan, what this can look like. Having an indoor recess plan is just as important. Following what happens and what spaces you have available. So here's a list of some of the activities. And again, looking at the different patterns of play on what you can do indoors to help students. And does it go by grade? So for example, we've given a chart idea here, depending on your space. You're going to list, so on Monday and Wednesdays, so if you're having a snow day, if you're having an indoor, day of, you're all at school, but you have to stay indoors. On a Monday and a Wednesday, if it's a Monday or a Wednesday, grade ones might play Go Noodle in the classroom. And again, looking at the different grades and what days are going to do them. So we've given you space to create a chart as well. So it's a whole school plan as best as you can, and just to give an idea what's going on. Again, looking at your recess supervision for indoors listed here, it's just as important as outdoors. And sometimes we forget we have to have an indoor recess plan just as much as an outdoor recess plan. You're done. You've done most of the work. Now all you have to do is look where you're communicating this information. Everything is there. How are you going to communicate this to staff, to the students, to parents and caregivers? Listing it all and showing it on how you're going to make sure that everybody's on the same page as you. And then list any additional information or future plans you'd like to move towards. And this is where you're going to all sign it and the date you've completed it. Two more things I want to show you before we go. Here is the list of alternatives to withholding recess. There's a link in the workbook to our website, and that's right. I went directly to that. So they're all right there. All 30 of them are all right there. 29 are all right there. You've got all different choices to do. You have also, this is what I'm going to be sending Jill so she can share this with you. This is a quality physical literacy recess checklist. It starts right from the beginning, from arrival to school until the students leave it, everything in between. This just gives you additional ideas where you can make changes. Some of them, some people haven't thought of. And again, if there's something we're missing, I would love to hear from you. We can add it in there because sharing from experience is what works best. The last piece I'm going to share with you. Whoop. I need to bring this down. Oh, you know what? It's a screen. There we go. There we go. Got it. 7 patterns of play to making a successful recess. So this is what Dr. Stuart Brown has listed as 7 patterns of play, and we're giving you different ideas on what they look like. It doesn't mean that every day you have to have a different pattern, every recess. No, maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's bi-weekly, you're doing something different for a group. Again, if you would like, we do already have it listed on a Google form, sending information out to what students are interested in. It's easy to do, and then that way you can collate all the information as well. Okay, so a lot of information we covered, and I'm going to stop sharing. So again, I did want to be cognizant of the time, but I did want to hear from you as well, especially at the beginning, what your needs were too. So any quick questions or comments? Actually not. Okay. Here, what task? When do we get into playing? So I'm not sure what, and not any at, oh, that's a school. Okay.
I think I think maybe like thinking about more specific play ideas. But after after this, and then I think Krista Nemi wants us to meet one more time just to kind of, even without you, Lynn, just us discussing the recess plan, some ideas. Then the school will get funding to purchase materials. And you had said, Lynn, that when you purchase equipment, that there's books that come with it, right? With specific activities of what they can use with the equipment.
Yes. So we do have outdoor winter games ones. We do have other activities too. And what we can also do is talk about our Create a Game web app. So that's create-a-game.ca. And what this does is, I know I'm cognizant of your time, so if anyone has to go, I thoroughly understand. So create-a-game.ca is where you can go. This used to be actually a hard copy book that we created years ago. Working with Mohawk College, they turned it in to an online presence. So what this is, think of this as a recipe book. You get to choose, there's 6 different areas. You choose your ingredients, and then you go through making your game. So this way you can make a game, and we can do a quick session on doing that as well. But this way, whether they're traditional games that they started with, and then they've moved on to making the game their own, or they're starting a whole game from scratch as well. So, but these are things that use executive functioning, creativity, problem solving, all of these tools for children, for students, for adults even, and how we collaborate and communicate our new game to them. We have schools that each class has created a game, and they put them in a file so that there's anywhere from 10 to 12 new games they can play at recess, and they're geared to different age groups, who is ever making them. So that's also an option for you as well, to look at different games and ideas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you send those resources to me, I'll send to the staff here. And as I said, if it would be possible to meet one more time, even if it's less than an hour, just to kind of discuss and go over some of the logistics.
Yes.
That would be good. Does it work with people like another Thursday, either like next Thursday, the 9th or the 16th, or is there another time that would suit better?
But
I think Kristen was saying maybe just us this time, just to kind of just just to kind of see if they have questions.
What we went over today was a lot of foundational pieces, because if you come together, get all the information together, building your team, creating your recess action plan, using this as your toolkit, and then you can go then you can go from there, because you've got your plan. Your plan is in writing. Your plan is right there.
Mhm. Just looking at the chat here.
And yeah, you should get the paperwork done in a week. Don't worry about that. You know, that, like I said, even if it takes this school year to work on it, it shouldn't, yeah, no, it's not realistic to do everything all at once.
Mhm. Well, what about the 16th? So it gives us 2 weeks. So it's still kind of fresh in our mind, but have a little bit of time to go over the materials. Hopefully that's okay. I'll send out an email and then we can meet from there. Thank you so much, Lynn, for doing this. This is
No
great.
problem. This is usually a lot longer, and so we kind of condensed, and you know what, I thank you for your time and your patience.